Hey everyone, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thanks so much for tuning in to what's going to be a full face wear test. As you can probably tell by the state of my face, since we're starting off with a bare face today, also probably by the title that makes way more sense than just looking at my face right now in case you've never seen one of these. The idea behind these is that I walk you through these products as I'm applying them here, then I will do some check-ins throughout the day so you can see how the wear is progressing, and then at the end of the day I will do one last check-in where I talk about my experience of wear throughout the day, how everything lasted, and whether or not I would recommend these products to use. So let's go ahead and dive in. This particular wear test video is going to be a little different because it's going to be pretty much a one brand tutorial. I'm focusing only on the Ulta Beauty collection, and that's because for the past couple of years a lot of you guys have asked questions about this collection, and I think we can all agree it's kind of underrated, under talked about here on YouTube. So I actually bought these a while back. I hope they're all still available. I bought these back when the Sephora VIB sale was going on, and then Platinum Ulta members got a 20% off discount there as well. And so I bought all this stuff right around the same time. I'm hoping it's still available, but it's just been sitting here for forever and I've been meaning to get to it. So here we are. Let's not delay it anymore. Let's go ahead and get started. First, let's start with foundation. I don't know what I was thinking here. I didn't actually buy an Ulta foundation, but I did buy foundation adjusting, that was very Sean Connery, adjusting drops. So here they are in the individual little containers. You get a darkening drop and a lightening drop. The one thing right off the bat I do have to say though is I feel like these are too narrow within the spectrum to work for skin tones on either extreme. Like, I don't think this is light enough to lighten a foundation for someone who might be super duper fair, and I don't think this is deep enough to deepen a foundation for someone who might be deeper than this actual product. The other thing I ran into was when I was searching in my collection for a foundation that was a little off for me, I ran into one from Urban Decay that I still to this day can't really use because it's the what is this even called? It's this guy, you know this one. It's in the shade 4.0 and it's so yellow for me. And so I was playing around with it. And the thing that I realized about these is for this particular foundation, it's less about needing to lighten or darken and more about needing to make it a little bit more neutral to cool. And so these are naturally a little bit cooler, but I don't know that they're cool enough to cancel out all of the yellow in here that just isn't matching my skin tone. And so something else to keep in mind with these guys is it's going to lighten and deepen your foundations, but it's not necessarily going to color correct if you find that you are neutral skin toned and you bought a warm foundation or a cool foundation. These are, I would say, pretty cool leaning. So I ended up landing on my favorite Manuel Beauty Filter Finish collection. This is medium filter 2. It is too deep for my skin. I typically use medium filter 1, so I have a full, they sent me this and I just have never been able to use it. So we're getting to it today. This lightening and darkening adjusting drops comes with an acrylic palette, which I really like. So I'm just going to put a little bit of these on there. Alrighty, so here I have that Manuel Beauty foundation on here. I'm going to take a little bit of the lightening drops. Let's see, about a dollop that big comes out. I guess I'm gonna mix that in and see where that puts me. Still a little bit too deep for my skin tone, so I'm gonna take a little bit more. And for the most part, my brush has kind of soaked it up, but that looks about right. Let's see how far this gets me. It's still a little too deep, so I'm just taking a little dollop, one more dollop of that, mixing it in the rest of the foundation on the palette, and then going in and blending that in. So overall, I don't find that these drops have affected the wear of the Manuel Beauty foundation, like the texture of it, the way it applies, it still blends in really nice and evenly. I do notice it's maintaining a little bit of a dewy finish, so we'll have to see if it stays that way, or if, like the Manuel Beauty typically does on me, it dries down to a powdery finish. The other thing to consider here is not just this shade match, but also how this will wear throughout the day. On me, the Manuel foundation is one of my holy grails because it wears so flawlessly on my skin. Looks like second skin, still gives some great coverage, and then lasts, I mean, like spackle or concrete. Like, you put it on your face and then it does not move until you need to take it off at the end of the day. And it's actually probably going to be put to a pretty good test today because it's the 4th of July, so there's lots of outdoor activities. It's going to be put to a pretty good test. But so far, so good. We'll see if this slight dewiness comes down. Next up is concealer, and I got the full coverage liquid concealer. It says it's waterproof even, in the shade Light Warm, which I would say is none too warm actually. I would say it's pretty neutral, maybe even a little ashy cool. Not super cool, but I wouldn't say warm by any means. So it comes with a doe foot applicator. I just apply that directly to my under eyes, and then whatever is left on the doe foot I apply around the rest of my face where I have redness or discoloration, like around my nose. Then I use my fingers because I find the warmth from my hands best blends concealer in no matter what concealer it is for me. So I just pat that in my under eye area area. And I have to say, I'm really impressed with the coverage so far. It's brightening, so I think the shade was right for me. It's certainly none too warm, despite the fact that it's called warm. Did a good job at brightening. This might even rival the Tarte Shape Tape in terms of coverage. And actually, as I continue to tap my finger over it to blend it in, it's beginning to get this tacky texture. You can tell it's drying down, which I really like, but I do hope it doesn't mean that it kind of tightens around my eyes, which could mean a little bit of crepiness or dryness. We will see. So far, I'm really digging the face. I mean, I know I like the foundation, but it does look like it's drying down more matte now, so it doesn't look like the drops affect that sort of wear component of the foundation. And then I really like this concealer. Let's continue on with the eyes, which are going to be super simple here today. I just picked up a Color Coat cream eyeshadow. This is, it just says metallic, which is more of a finish and less of a shade, but we're gonna run with it. It's like a smoky, greigey pewter sort of thing. To apply that, I'm gonna use my finger. Ooh, it's kind of soft. Not moussey, but definitely like soft and hydrated, which is good. It hasn't dried out at all, which is really good because like I said, I bought these months ago, and even though I didn't break the plastic seal around it, it just definitely gives them some time to dry out. So good to know that these have a little bit of a shelf life. Ooh, I really like that color. Then I'm just taking a brush and running that through my crease to make sure it's all blended. So with this, I'm not using a primer, and I'm also not setting with a shadow. The hope for me is that this will be similar to a Maybelline Color Tattoo or even the Revlon cream shadows, where they act well as a standalone cream eyeshadow or well as a base worn under eyeshadow, but it doesn't necessarily need to be set, which is why I love the Color Tattoos, because if you want them to be, they can be a one and done shadow where you just put them on, no primer, no follow-up shadow, and you're good to bolt out the door. As I tap my finger over the top, it feels like it is totally dried down to a powder finish and it's not going anywhere, but we'll see how it wears throughout the day. Moving on to eyeliner, I picked up the Slanted Felt Tip Liner in black. Felt tips can be kind of tricky. They sometimes dry out very quickly. Sometimes they're too harsh. I don't find I have particularly sensitive upper lash lines, but felt tips in particular can be kind of hit or miss over something like a calligraphy tip, which is softer, has ink that flows a little bit more freely, and so thought I wanted to give this one a try. So as I'm using this, I realize it has a kind of a unique shape compared to a lot of other felt tip liners that I've used. It's almost like an orange stick, or like something that you'd use to push your cuticle back, where it's flat on one side and then a little bit more tapered on the other. As I'm using it, I don't find that it helps in any certain way in creating the shape or line. In fact, the felt is a little bit rough. It's not irritating my eyes, but I could definitely see where on some allergy prone days, things like that, it might be a little sensitizing to the eye area, and the particular shape of the felt tip doesn't do it any favors in that way, especially when you find that depending on the angle, you can only use like the super narrow side and then press harder to make sure that the liquid's flowing. It just, you know, isn't the most ideal shape for me. Still pretty impressed with the pigmentation here. I mean, it is ultra black. It was super easy to get a nice opaque look here, just not necessarily the most intuitive felt tip liner I've ever used. Last up for the eyes is the mascara, and this is the Feathered Lashes Curling and Defining Mascara. I got the shade Jet Black, and this has a sort of a half moon wand where it's curved on one side and flat on the other. It's a pretty thin formula, more on the wet side than the dry, but I wouldn't say it's too wet by any means. Definitely coats the lashes nice and evenly, but I will say as I'm applying it, it is none too dramatic. Feathery is definitely the key word here. Yeah, for sure. After one coat and you look at the before and after, I wouldn't call this a dramatic lash. There's not a whole lot of volume. Feathery still is the word to keep in mind with these. You got great, you know, separated tips over here, but I'm gonna go in for another coat just to see if I can beef them up a little bit. So another coat added more drama, more fullness, but it definitely added a little bit more clumpiness too there. Not a whole lot of curl, some slight curling with these, but if you're looking for curl, this probably isn't the best mascara for you. I think it's better for those that are looking for just a light, natural, wispy coating of mascara across their lashes. Now let's do the brows. I actually didn't pick up a brow product from Ulta. Don't know why. I just spaced on it, I guess. Instead, I have a new product from L'Oreal. This is the Brow Stylist Kabuki blender. On one end, you have this wax stick, and on the other, you have a brush blender, but it looks really, really broad to be, you know, used for the brows, but let's give it a try. This, by the way, is in the shade Brunette, and as I apply it, it's definitely not for the precise brow. This is for adding that volume in general. I'm not loving how unkempt the edges are. I typically like a more crisp, clean edge, so I would just at first use pair this with a harder more precise brow pencil to really cut that edge, because especially once you go in with that blender, it's almost kind of like, I feel like my eyes look like velveteen or like that velvet paper where they're just kind of full and fuzzy. They're not really distinct looking brow hairs or anything like that. So can't say this is really my favorite right now. On to the rest of the face, I have a 3-in-1 cheek palette. This is the Hombre cheek palette, where you can see you have an Hombre blush, a bronzer that looks slightly shimmery, and then an Hombre highlighter, which looks gorgeous, but kind of hard to distinguish in the pan, not just the individual shades, but between the individual pans themselves. For instance, I'm looking at the bronzer or the brushes I have and want to use for bronzer. There is no way this guy is going to get in this bronzer and not pick up some of the highlighter and blush, so please hold. Alrighty, for bronzer, I landed on this guy from e.l.f. You can see it's slightly tapered here, but also slightly full. Perfect to get into this bronzer color. So this bronzer is applying really smoothly and evenly, and even though it has a slight shimmer to it, it's not showing up at all glittery as I apply it to my face. Not looking like a disco ball. It's really more of a skin smoothing effect. Moving on to the blush, it is very pigmented, but one thing I do notice here is that with both the blush and the bronzer actually, is the lightest shades are really less of a blush and or a bronzer. Even if you are super fair, those still come off as more of a highlighter. So really you only get 2 shades of both blush and bronzer. I just combine the 2 blush shades to apply to the apples of my cheeks, and whoo boy is it pigmented. If you need to take the brush you use for foundation to just take that color out a little bit, that's what I did. But so far applied really evenly and with a lot of great pigmentation. Last up is highlighter, and I'm going with more of a golden glow today, but I do like that you get the balance of both golden, like warm golden, not too warm, but just slightly warm golden, and then a cooler icy highlighter, plus those 2 sort of pinky champagne tone highlighters that you technically get in the blush and bronzer pans as well. Hoo boy, is this a crazy strong highlighter. I love it. So last up are the lips, and I got an Hombre lip duet. It was a 2-pack though, and I'm kind of confused with how this works, and they don't talk about, like, there are no instructions on the packaging they came in. Basically, these are dual-ended lip products. On one side you have a liner, on the other side you have more of a glossy, balmy lip product. The idea is to create an ombre effect, but I'm not sure if you have to use both products to do that, or if one of these is supposed to be the, like, provide one ombre look versus the other. That much is not clear. So because I have a little bit more of a smoky eye look going on, I'm gonna go in with the lightest one, and let's just see what happens. So the lip liner itself applies really nicely, doesn't pull, doesn't feel dry or uncomfortable, and in general I just really like the shade. The same goes for the larger lip color. It has a little bit more of a balmy finish, a little bit of a thicker texture, softer texture, feels very hydrating and nourishing, and I love how smoothly and evenly it glided on. But after looking at the full, like, how it looks on my lips as in terms of an ombre effect, but in general I'm not getting the ombre lip effect as much. It looks like I just took almost a matching lip liner lipstick and then put a little something in the center of my lips. I don't hate it, I just don't know that I would call this an ombre. It's a very, very subtle ombre if that's the case, so I think I might also try, maybe later at another check-in, or as I'm filming the last part of this video, try it again with the deeper, like using both the deeper and the lighter together. Something tells me these aren't going to be super long lasting, although the lip liner was a little drier. It felt like it was going to be a little more long lasting than the larger lip color. The way it's like slips in between my lips, and you just, you know, when you have that feeling, you just don't think it's going to transfer. It's not going to be transfer proof. I mean, you can see right. Wait, can you? Well, you can't really, but trust me, it's there in case you can't see it. Definitely not transfer proof so far. So there will be an opportunity to try both of these together at later in the day. Oh hey guys, we are switching to voiceover mode just for this portion of the video. For some reason, when I was talking about this product, and only when I'm talking about this product, my audio pooped out. Literally, it's just this portion that I had no audio, and then again when I talk about it at the very end of the video, once again, just started kind of clipping out. So quick voiceover. This is just me telling you that I'm using the GLow Enhancer Drops from Ulta. The idea behind them is the same as the Cover FX enhancer drops, where they're basically a concentrated highlight that you can wear alone, add to your foundation, your body lotion, yada yada. You get the point. You get two shades in this kit. One is Skylight, which is a light golden glow, and the other is Daylight, which is a deeper sun-kissed glow. And the reason my face looks so sour here is that Daylight, the deeper sun-kissed shade, has totally separated from the shimmer that's inside of it. You can see this beautiful bronzy base, but then there is like this really noticeable silver shimmer that's just like sitting on top of the product. You can tell it's gonna lay just like that on the skin. So I decided to go in with the shade Skylight here just to use on my shoulders. But by comparison, this face here is me showing you that my shoulder doesn't have much more of a glow than, say, my collarbone, which has nothing on it. So bottom line is I didn't see a huge difference here, and it's pretty much what you're going to hear at the very end of the video when I talk about wear throughout the day. Once that was applied, my look for the day was complete, so didn't miss anything after that. Let's just go ahead and jump right into the final check-in. Okay guys, here we are back for the final check-in slash the only other check-in today. I do have to say I filmed my favorites today, so there was kind of a check-in. I'll put like a little something video up here so you can see I did not touch anything up before I filmed that, so you can see I have some wear around my nose area. I'm not only getting over a cold, but I think there's also some allergies at play there. Needless to say, I've been blowing my nose like crazy all day, so there is some redness around here. You can totally see that in that midday check-in, I guess, but it's the 4th, like I said. Today got busy, but that also means that this face of makeup saw a lot of wear throughout the day. I ran to the grocery store, ran some other errands. I went and sat outside at the pool. It's, you know, I think it was like a high of 93, 95 here in Dallas today, and so I had plenty of opportunity to perspire, wear this makeup off, develop a lot of excess shine, went and watched fireworks later in the day. 10 hours worth of wear and doing all of that. This is where we're at. It's a pretty decent face of makeup, I have to say. Let's go through it product by product. First, let's start with the foundation. I knew my Manuel Beauty wouldn't let me down, but I wasn't sure how the drops, the adjusting drops, would fare. So granted, I did only use the Lightening drops, but I assume that the formula is the same between the two. I have to say, really impressed with the way my face wore throughout the day. There's no streaking in my cheek area. There's no excess shine in my T-zone. Like I said earlier, the major wear is around my nose, and that is self-admittedly due to some major nose blowing throughout the day, and so it's more because of tissues and less because the foundation, you know, naturally kind of disintegrated there. So long story short, these I would recommend if you happen to have some foundations that are too light or too deep for you. You just, instead of buying the whole new foundation, just buy some of these and they'll work across the board for, you know, any foundation that you have that you need to adjust for winter and or summer. But the one thing I do think is worth repeating is just that it won't color correct your foundation in the event you need some, like, to go from warm to cool or vice versa, or neutral, you know, cool something down, warm something up. These are pretty solidly in the neutral to cool section, so just keep that in mind if and when you decide you want to purchase these. Next for the face is concealer. I have to say I really like this, considering I didn't set any of my face. Typically, I don't set my whole face because, you know, I have dryer around the perimeter, combo down the center, and so I typically just do my under eye area and maybe down my T-zone if I feel like the foundation is one that needs it. No setting today. You can see a little bit of wear. Let me get my mirror out to do a little bit of a close-up. You can see some wear on the inner corner. Like, I am definitely one to touch, like if my eyes itch, I'm one of these kinds of people. So that's definitely where I see the most wear. And you can see it's worn away, but for the most part, like around here, there is no creasing or crepiness or dryness. I was a little concerned with that tacky texture. It would kind of emphasize any sort of fine lines or dehydration that I might have going on. Nothing. Really impressed with how it maintained throughout the day. And then consider if you were to set it, like for the really stubborn places in here, I think you would be golden. Oh, hi. How you doing? Nice to have you. Welcome. He's here. I'm not sure it exactly rivals what has been, you know, a longtime favorite for the past couple months for me anyway, the Tarte Shape Tape. This is definitely thicker, creamier, provides a lot, well, not a lot, I don't know, what's the comparable coverage? I might need to do a side-by-side here in the future because the Ulta definitely gives a good amount of coverage and is a thinner consistency, but I would say the coverage is a little less from the Ulta. And in general from this test, it's a little, I mean, it just has a shorter wear time, but I always have to set the Shape Tape because it is just a little bit more thicker and hydrating. So I find it needs that extra setting power, whereas I don't know how the Ulta performs. So stay tuned for that. I will have no problem continuing to use this because I think it's done an amazing job today. What is next? Let's talk eyes now. First up is the cream shadow. Look at this guy. Really impressed with how this is held up. Maybe I should zoom in. Here we go. Can you see this? I mean, no creases, no fades. There is no transfer. I mean, it's like this stuff is bulletproof. Same for the eyeliner. Look, no smudging. There's no fading. There's no skipping or anything like that. No running or flaking. These eye products. 2 thumbs up for the Ulta eye products. I definitely want to try more of these cream shadows, or color coats as they're called. Once again, this shade was metallic for reference. To me, that is more of a finish. I do want to go back and look at the line to see if it is a finish, if maybe this has a different color, but just in general, this is a pretty beautiful, steely, pewtery gray. I think they had another felt liner when I was looking on the website, so I might try a different tip. Like I said, I wasn't in love with this tip, both the texture and the shape of it, but the formula of the product itself, amazing. And then again, same can be said for the mascara. If you feel like these give you the results you want, I mean, like they are truly feathery like lashes. You have to layer it up to get any sort of volume. Like with one layer, it's major featheriness, mostly focused on length and wispiness. And then with the second coat, you get the volume at the base. You do verge on clumpiness, I will say, but still, you look at the way it's lasted throughout the day for a non-waterproof formula on a hot day like this where I've actually been outside. There is no crumbling, flaking, running, anything like that, or transferring. It's a good formula. On to the rest of the face, the Hombre cheek palette. I like the way this wore too. I'm not convinced that you get as much variety as you might think at face value. Like I said, you know, yeah, you get 3 cheek colors, but realistically, I don't think this is a blush color for even the fairest of skin tones. Same for the bronzer. These really amount to more highlight shades for me, whether you want one more with a pinky rosy undertone versus one with more of a bronzy undertone. But I do like the contrast you get here with more of an icy highlight versus, you know, something verging on more of a warmer golden highlight. And then you still do get a lighter versus a deeper bronzer and a lighter versus a deeper blush. I do like that sort of variety, but just something to, you know, check yourself on as you're looking at this, is you don't necessarily get the kind of variety you think, but it's still a good amount of variety and it wears beautifully throughout the day. Yeah, pretty much dig it. Then onto the lips. I did say earlier that I wanted to try using the deeper ombre versus the deeper and the lighter versus just using one or the other. So I'm going to apply the deeper liner to my lips. So same thing here for the deeper shade, just as smooth and creamy as the lighter liner shade. Apply smoothly without skipping or tugging. It doesn't feel dry at all. But now I'm going to see how it wears with the lighter lip crayon in the center of the lip to create a more extreme contrast in the ombre effect. Now that is what I call an ombre. And I think using the two, I mean, like I said, the formulas between the 2 crayons are the same, but I think using the 2 contrasting or the 2 different shades together helped me realize how good these formulas are together. They really do, you know, when you try and recreate your own ombre at home, if you're using 2 different lip formulas from 2 different brands that weren't necessarily meant to create this sort of effect, there is sort of a struggle blending, or can be sort of a struggle blending them in depending on the waxiness, you know, how hard or soft the formula is. These, you can tell, really were meant to blend together. You have the harder liner tip that goes on the exterior, and while it does blend in with the kind of softer, balmier formula of the lip crayon that goes in the center of the lips, it's not enough to budge that outer corner, so it really creates an easy, flawless ombre. You get the 2 crayons. I do wish they'd include instructions because it's kind of hard to tell, but essentially you kind of get 3 lips in one. You can do some, you know, use both of these to get the lip I'm wearing now. You can use one of them to get the lip I was wearing earlier, and then just use the deeper berry one to get an entirely separate lip, each of which are unique and multifaceted. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed with the way they formulated both of the, you know, the lip liner and the lip crayon to go together to create more of an effortless ombre. In terms of wear time, it definitely was gone with the first meal. It weathered some light snacking. The center was definitely the first thing to wear off with light, you know, drinking, eating, things like that. But a full meal, you can pretty much guarantee your whole lip is gone. Luckily, these are packaged in a way that makes them super convenient to carry around. And if you are the kind of person that doesn't mind reapplying your lips throughout the day, these are about as no muss, no fuss as it gets. But if you have gotten used to the transfer-proof liquid lipstick sort of thing, these these might not be for you. Just something to keep in mind. And last, on to the GLow Enhancer Drops, which I had so hoped would be a dupe for the Cover FX Custom Enhancer, basically the illuminating highlight drops that are amazing from Cover FX. Hoped these would be a dupe for them, and right off the bat, 50% of them are a total dud. I mean, look at the way this separated. You have this warm bronzer with this silver shimmer, and even if that did make sense in my mind, the fact that the formula separated so badly cannot work. Then you have the Skylight shade, which I applied to my shoulders here. Again, and I said this when I was applying it, but you look at my shoulders versus my collarbone, which has nothing applied to it, and there is no difference. I just don't think this is a good highlighter in any sense of the word, whether it's for your face or your body. You might be able to add it to your foundation to get a little bit of a glow, but honestly, I applied this without diluting it in any sort. Didn't feel like it made that big of a difference. So unfortunately, I feel like we had a lot of good wins in this video. These were not them. So I hate to end it on a negative note, but that is everything that I tried today from the Ulta collection. I know it's a tiny drop in the bucket compared to what all Ulta has to offer. I'd love to hear from you guys if you tried these, what you think of them, if you enjoyed this video with the Ulta collection products, and if there are any other Ulta collection products you'd like me to try in future similar videos or in one-off reviews. Whatever you have in mind, just let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye guys.